What's going on YouTube? So Chevy has recently been bringing back some of their old nameplates, starting with the Blazer last year and now this Trailblazer for 2021. But unlike the original version, this reincarnation is now a subcompact crossover, designed to fit right in between the Trax and the Equinox and offer more style than either of them. But does it stand out in this increasingly crowded segment? Let's go ahead and find out. So kicking things off here on the exterior, one of the things that Chevy emphasized is they have a lot of different versions of this Trailblazer to appeal to all different types of taste. So up in the front, you're actually going to find, like I said, a lot of different versions. This is the regular version that comes on the lower 3 trim levels. So you have just the traditional black bars with the chrome that runs through here. Now, however, if you go up to the active trim level, that's where things are going to look more rugged, since that's the more off-road focused model. So you have a more rugged bumper and some extra trim up here in the grille. Then if you go for the RS, since that's the sportier one, that's actually going to enlarge the grille and finish it in a black mesh. Now turning over here to your headlights, they have that same cool split design just like in the full-size Blazer. So what you're going to have is an LED daytime running light that's going to be standard on every trim level. However, the main headlight unit, that's going to be halogen until you go up to the top 2 trim levels and add the technology package. Then finally down here at the bottom you have an LED fog light, and that's going to be standard on this LT trim and higher. Now part of that style differentiation that I was talking about in the front does involve the wheels, since every single trim level comes with a different design, most of which are quite stylish. So starting on the L model, that's going to have a 16-inch steel wheel with hubcaps. However, once you go for the LS or this LT, that's where you're going to get a 17-inch alloy with this contrast design being exclusive to the LT. As you move up from that, you have a 17-inch alloy on the active trim level, and then an 18-inch alloy when you go up for the RS. And then jumping up to our mirrors here, they are going to be painted and heated if you go for the LT or higher. And then as far as the blind spot monitoring, that's actually going to be optional on all the trim levels as part of the driver confidence package.
All right, so before we head around to the rear, I do want to stop here at the side and talk about a few different things. So first of all, I just want to talk about the style in general. I think this actually looks pretty good from the side in a segment where a lot of them can look like a little jelly bean or something weird. And that has to do with what Chevy has done here for the styling. So all of the models are going to have this floating roof pillar. So this is blacked out on all of the trim levels. And then if you go for the higher 2 trim levels, the active and RS, you can actually get a 2-tone roof. So it can be bronze and white on the active or black and red on the RS model. Now coming around to the rear itself, you are going to have that same good looking design. It does kind of look like a baby Blazer back here. And as far as your feature set, you're going to have just halogen taillights on this lower end LT model. However, you go for the RS or active, they are going to be LED. And then down here on the bottom, the higher 2 trim levels will also add in exposed exhaust outlets. Now here at the safety systems is another area where I'm really impressed with this all-new Trailblazer, since Chevy does throw in the vast majority of them standard across the board. So even the base model will have forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane keeping assist, and auto high beam headlights. And then if you want adaptive cruise control, that's going to be optional on the LT trims and higher. Well guys, that sums up the cool and stylish exterior of this all-new Trailblazer. So now let's go ahead and hop on the inside before we take it out on a spin.
So on the all-new Trailblazer, you will find Chevy's smart entry system as well as remote start standard on the mid-level LT and higher. And to get inside the vehicle itself, there is not a sensor behind the handle, so all you have to do is just press this silver button. Alright, and taking a first look inside of this cabin. As you can see, it's got a very sleek and modern looking design, but it actually doesn't bear very much resemblance at all to the full-size Blazer. Now, as far as the various color and material options, you do have quite a few selections. So on your L through your LT, that's where you're going to get cloth seating in your choice of jet black or gray. Now on this LT, we have the cloth seating. However, you can option on leather if you prefer that. And then on your active and RS trim levels, those are going to come standard with the leatherette, with your choice of black with brown accents or red accents. Now turning over here to your door trim, those same materials are reflected up here. So we have a soft touch armrest, and above that we have the same gray cloth that is inside of the seat. As far as your windows, your driver window is going to be automatic up and down. And then coming down here to your seat, we have the 10-way power adjusting seat with 2-way lumbar support. This comes standard on the LT and higher. Now, like I already mentioned, of course, we have the standard cloth seat. But I do want to point out just how attractive this design is. I really like the way that they have this contrasting look inside of the seat and different types of stitching and piping details. Now, in addition to the sleek design that I already mentioned, we have a pretty nice selection of materials for this class of vehicle. Now, as expected, the top part of this dashboard is going to be hard touch, but as we drop down here to the middle, we have a kind of textured, soft touch plastic with a color contrast stitching detail. Definitely livens up the cabin. Below that, we have kind of a gray plastic accent here. And of course, as expected, you know, lower areas are going to be hard touch, but I have to say I'm very impressed by how solid everything feels and the fact that everything fits together really well. I don't notice any panel gaps or anything like that. Now, standard on the LT and higher, you have push button start. So what you're looking at right now are the standard gauges. Obviously they are analog with that classic GM design. You can actually get a larger 4.2-inch multi-function display though, if you have the technology package on the higher end trim levels. And then coming back to the steering wheel, as you can see on this specific example, we actually do not have leather. This is the standard urethane steering wheel. Comes on the lower 3 trims, and on the upper 2 you will have leather trim, of course. Of course, it is manual adjusting as well, and heating is not available. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about interior storage, because this is a crossover after all, so we do expect to have some utility. And when you open it up, it looks pretty small, but that's because this actually removes. And then you actually see that you have a pretty large bin. It goes down quite deep. And then when we bust out the Burger King coupons, because it's pretty narrow, we are going to have to fold them in half, but that's pretty much what I expected for a vehicle in this size category. Now up in front of that, we actually have another really large bin right there. You've got 2 cup holders and a little slot to slide your phone. And then in the very front, we actually have another really large storage bin. This is a great spot to stick different types of devices. You can make this a wireless phone charging pad as well if you choose the technology package on the upper 2 trim levels. And then above that, you'll notice a 12-volt outlet, a USB Type-C, a USB Type-A, and an aux jack. And then finally, we even have a little storage shelf right here in front of the passenger. So I have to say, I'm very impressed by the amount of storage that Chevy has worked into a crossover that's this small. Now checking out the shifter here, of course this is just a regular traditional shifter. You can shift manually here with these little toggles, but you're not going to find paddle shifters. And then when we go into reverse, you will find a standard backup camera, of course, on every single trim level. Now when you choose the convenience package, that's where you're going to get parking sensors on any of the trim levels. And then also, if you have the tech package on the upper trim levels, this will be upgraded to the higher resolution camera system that we've seen on some of the more expensive Chevrolet models. And then back behind the shifter, you will have your electronic parking brake. And in front of the shifter here, you'll find all your different drive modes, as well as the button to defeat your auto start stop system. Now that convenience package that I mentioned earlier is also responsible for the single zone automatic climate control. Otherwise, on all the trim levels, you're going to have a standard manual setup. Like I said, you have one zone, so you adjust the temperature right here and your fan speeds over here on this side, and all the buttons are located physically right here. Now, in addition to that, you will find standard heated seats on this LT trim level and higher, and of course ventilation is not available. And now that brings us up here to our audio systems. So you're going to find a standard 6-speaker setup across all of the trim levels. However, there is a Bose sound system available if you choose that technology package on the upper 2 trim levels. However, we don't have that, so of course we're just going to go ahead and sample that standard 6-speaker sound system. Yeah, so overall sound quality is pretty good. Definitely what I would expect for a bass sound system in this class. Alright, so now we are here at our main head unit. This is one of the things that looks very premium inside of this cabin because it is quite large. This is the 8-inch display, and that is available as an option on the LT trim level and higher. Now, if you don't choose to have the optional 8-inch display, you actually still get a standard 7-inch display, which doesn't look too much different than this one. Additionally, you will have both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay still, even if you choose the lower end trim levels with the 7-inch display. Now, one of the things that's worth noting is that navigation is actually not available. And I did want to point out that this is the latest Chevy infotainment system. However, it seems like there's been some updates for 2021 because everything is actually a lot more responsive than in other Chevys that I've been in recently. Really snappy, and there's some new animations as you can see when you go back to the home screen. Now up above here, you're going to have an auto dimming mirror if you go for the convenience package. And then on this specific example, you're not going to notice anything up here on the roof, but you can actually get a panoramic moonroof if you go for the sun and liftgate package, which is going to be optional on the LT and higher.
Alrighty, so hopping around to the rear seat of this all-new Trailblazer, I have to say, the first thing I said when I sat back here was actually, wow, because I'm pretty impressed with the amount of space that this thing has to offer. You know, just sitting back here, first of all, these seats are pretty comfortable, which is rare for the class, and there's also a lot of space, so very impressed first impression. And as far as the actual legroom measurements, you're going to find 39 inches of rear legroom and 38 inches of rear headroom, which positions this at the very top end of the segment. It's right in line with the Kia Seltos, which is at the top end. And as far as behind rear seating position, I have about 6 inches of rear legroom, and my feet have tons of space to slide up underneath the seat. It's actually kind of raised on blocks, so I can definitely have a lot of room for your feet, very comfortable. And as far as the features itself are concerned, now of course this is a more basic vehicle, so you're not going to find vents or anything like that. However, we do have a little storage cubby down at the bottom, and then optional on this LT, we have a household style outlet, as well as a smart charging USB and a USB Type-C. Honestly, those are a lot of connections for a vehicle in this class. And then here in the center, we do not have a fold-down armrest on this LT. However, you can get that on the higher end models. Now walking up to the tailgate of this Trailblazer, this particular model does just have the manual liftgate. However, you can get an optional foot activated one on the higher end models. And once inside of this cargo department, you're going to find a good amount of space for a vehicle in this class. So you're going to find 25 cubic feet of space behind the second row seats, and that expands to 54 cubic feet if you fold them. Now that does position it a little bit lower than the all-new Kia Seltos. However, like I said, that is still at the top end of the segment. And as far as how Chevy finishes it back here, we do have a nice carpeting along the floor, and if you lift it up, there is a spare tire up underneath, as well as a lot of storage areas. And then you can also adjust the level of the cargo floor here to be lower to give you more room. It's basically whatever you want. And then you have storage cubbies on both sides and the ability to fold, just reach up and fold the seats 60-40 split. Now, as you would expect, the seat is going to be manually adjusting here on the passenger side. And in front of the passenger, you do have a dampened glove box. It is not felt lined. However, our Burger King coupons can fit in here completely unfolded, and you can actually put quite a fat stack in here, so I'm impressed for that. And then up top, we do have a sun visor with gently fading in LED lights and a mirror, and it does also detach as well as extend.
An acceleration up to 60 miles per hour. I have to say, you know, it's pretty decent. Obviously, nothing in this class is actually quick or anything, but, you know, I mean, it's perfectly adequate for this type of vehicle as a small crossover that it is. Now, I was kind of intrigued because we haven't been behind the wheel of very many 3-cylinder cars. That's right, this is a 3-cylinder. Yeah. Now, GM is actually offering this with 2 different 3-cylinder options. We have the more powerful one that's going to be a 1.3-liter turbo 3-cylinder, 155 horsepower, 174 pound-feet of torque. That's optional on this LT and standard on the higher 2 trim levels.
And it's only about a $395 option, so it's not like super expensive. But if you do go for that base engine, that's actually a 1.2-liter turbo 3-cylinder, and that's 137 horsepower and 162 pound-feet of torque. So not a massive power difference between the two, but definitely what we have here is going to be a little bit higher end. You know, but just cruising around here, now that we have gotten up to speed, you know, this is what the Trailblazer is for. You know, anything in this segment of vehicle, you know, it's supposed to be an urban vehicle that you just kind of drive around, and it needs to be comfortable, have room for the family, and that type of thing. And, you know, honestly, this Trailblazer does a really good job at that. And now that we're underway, you know, I have to say the ride quality is exactly what I would expect out of this class, if not better than most in this segment. As well as just the noise level entering into the cabin. Now, I will go ahead and get a sound level meter reading. We're going around 40, upper 40s, so we'll see how loud it is in here. Looks like before we slowed down here, we're looking around 55 decibels, which I don't exactly remember the Kia Seltos, but I do feel like that's pretty class competitive with that new Mazda CX-30 and Kia Seltos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just going by the ear, I think that it's pretty quiet in here, especially, you know, like wheel noise, stuff like that. I did not really hear much of that.
And really the engine too is quiet. You know, like you said, is not very many vehicles have a 3-cylinder, so I was very, you know, intrigued as to if it would be loud and maybe rough, but it really doesn't seem like that to me.
Mm-mm. No, I don't feel any types of vibrations or anything. I mean, it does sound a little different, like, just kind of listen. It's almost got, I don't know, like a deeper type of note to it, like a diesel-y type of tone.
Yeah, it's a little
I don't know. It does sound just slightly different, but the average consumer is not really going to notice, and I think that's a good thing. You know, if you can make the 3-cylinder where no one really notices that they have a 3-cylinder, that's what you'd be going for. Now, of course, the other thing to take note of with this powertrain setup is going to be your continuously variable transmission. That comes with both engines. You know, and as you can tell, it doesn't actually do any like shift simulations or anything like that. So But you know, I mean, it is pretty responsive as far as when you actually put your foot down and stuff. I'm not really noticing any type of, you know, hesitation when you want more acceleration. So it is a pretty good setup. Like I said, just be aware you don't have any types of shift simulation.
Yeah.
You don't have any manual shifting, but this is pretty typical as far as this segment is concerned.
Now, as far as your drivetrains are concerned, front-wheel drive is going to be the standard option, of course, and that 1.2-liter engine is going to be only front-wheel drive. So if you want the all-wheel drive, you're going to have to go up to the 1.3-liter engine, and that's still going to be optional.
And going around that corner there is a good time to talk about the driving dynamics. As far as the Trailblazer, I would say it's pretty much typical for the class. Like Mason was talking about earlier, these are not typically designed to be sporty or anything. You know, comfort is what is the focus, and you know, you can feel that with the Trailblazer. That's not to say it's sloppy or anything. It actually, the suspension is pretty tight, and it handles around the corner pretty well. But the steering, that's going to be very lightweight. So as you can see, it is fast responding, but it's definitely on the lighter side of things.
Now, as far as your fuel economy is concerned for this Trailblazer, you're going to have pretty good fuel economy. It's right in line with the competition. So if you go for that 1.2-liter engine, it's going to come in at 28 city, 31 highway, 29 combined. And that is front-wheel drive only. Then if you go for the 1.3, you're actually going to get better fuel economy by 2 mpg, which, you know, that's something worth noting there. And it has more power, so it's 29 city, 33 highway, 31 combined out of that engine. And then if you go for the all-wheel drive, it's going to go down to 28 combined.
But overall, I think that this new Trailblazer drives exactly the way that it should. It certainly emphasizes comfort, which is, you know, the most important thing in this class of vehicle, you know, and it really nails all the important aspects such as being quiet, comfortable, and spacious.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and discuss the pricing for this all-new Trailblazer, since that is a very important part of anything in this segment. Now, the below MSRPs are for the front-wheel drive model. So if you want to go for the L, that's going to be $19,000 even. The LS is $21,500. LT is $23,600. The Active is $25,400. And then the RS is the same price. You just basically pick between the two. Now, we do have a few options on this particular Trailblazer. So we do have the convenience package for $600, as well as the performance package for $395, and the driver confidence package for $345. So all told, when you add the destination charge of $995, this particular model as equipped comes in at $25,955, which I have to say is a very competitive price point. You know, a lot in this segment will top out around $30, which is true with this Trailblazer as well. So it's right in line with a lot in the segment, and it has a lot to offer that some in the segment don't. Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed watching this in-depth look at the all-new 2021 Chevy Trailblazer LT. If you made it this far in the video, hopefully that means you enjoyed it just a little bit, so be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.